Welcome to the Level Up Artist Podcast. We're your hosts, Adriana, and
Jackie Sanders. We're two art professionals sharing forward the advice and business lessons we have learned along our creative journeys.
We talk to artists, leaders, and art professionals to demystify the creative process and discover new ways to succeed as a career-minded artist.
If you find value in these conversations, please go ahead and subscribe. This will help other creatives like you find our podcast, and you'll be notified when we drop a new episode. On today's episode, we decide to make it a little bit of a lighthearted, fun conversation because if you have listened to our other guest interviews, you may remember that a question we ask all of our guests is, if someone randomly handed you $100, what would you spend it on or invest it in? Our only caveat is that it has to be something that brings you joy and relates to your art or art business. So we thought for today's episode, we wanted to share what we would spend $100 on if someone randomly handed it to us on the street.
Yeah, which would be awesome. And with this one, it's like whether you're looking to, ask for gifts for yourself, or you're trying to get gifts for an artist in your life, or you got, some gift money or some gift cards or whatever, and you want to kind of spend it on a purpose and or are curious about what we would spend it on, then hopefully this episode will spark some ideas for you. And if not, well, then you still get to find out what we would spend it on. So we're going to list 5 things each. And then also point of clarification, which is we were preparing for this episode. I asked Jackie and I said, $100 total or $100 per category?
Yes.
So technically, for what I'm going to mention, I need at least 500, just so you know. Santa, just so you know.
Yeah.
But all right, you start, Jackie. What's $100? What would you spend it on?
Okay, I think the first thing that comes to mind for me would be very simple, very art studio practice focused, and that would be as many Sharpies as I could buy, the regular ones and the thin ones, because for those that don't know, that is my primary drawing and journaling, I guess, implement of choice. And dot paper, because although grid paper can be nice if you are drawing geometric forms, I much prefer dot paper because it's not as visually intrusive, but you still get the structure for it. And the one that I buy, I think it's Fabriano is the brand. It can be a little bit pricey, but it's like the perfect thickness, not too thick, but not too thin. So paper and pens, very simple. How about you, Adriana? What would your first thing that you would buy be?
I'm laughing because I'm like, Fabriano is Italian made, and it's like, it's expensive, but not like the French brand is. But I don't think I
Yeah.
have dot paper, the one that comes in the black boxes, arches. Oof. Anyways,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
yeah. But I'm like, that is a ton. No, that's a truckload of Sharpies that you're talking. I'm kidding.
Bring
They're
it
like
in
$1
here.
each.
I
They're
use
not
them
that many.
up. I use them
Yeah,
up.
you could literally get 100 Sharpies, which is awesome. Or 50 Sharpies and then spend the rest on your dot paper.
There
That's
you go.
perfect, actually.
Perfect.
I would say for me, the thing that comes to mind that's also an art supply, and one that I find indispensable is actually an Apple Pencil Pro. Um, on my previous iPad, I lost my Apple Pencil once, and I tried to make do with like a super generic one for a while, and it was just, I couldn't do it. I ended up buying another one, and then I eventually found the first one. So I was like, great, at least I have a backup. Luckily, the current version that I use, it's actually an Apple Pencil Pro for the type of iPad that I want. And I like it because it's a little longer and it feels like more natural in my hands, almost like a pencil. The charge lasts a really good while, but the best part for me, and yes, I would have to buy it used to like stay under 100, otherwise it's like a little bit over, but is that it has like, it works with the Find My Devices feature for Apple. So I think in about a year, I've quote unquote lost it twice, aka I dropped it twice, and I was able to ping it, or with my phone I was able to find it because I could see it on a map like where it was supposed to go. So I would say, like, I think that would be like my first $100 thing is like, if I misplaced my Apple Pencil, since I do so much work on the iPad for painting, sculptures, murals, whatever, I'm like, I would go, First, I would see if I could find one under 100. Yes, please, refurbish. That would be awesome. But if not, yeah, I would go straight to the store and buy another one.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, so true. I feel like certain tools like that, like you can get away with a knockoff brand or a generic brand, but there are certain tools like the Apple Pencil that it really you are compromising the quality by not having the name brand at times. But yeah, I feel like my next one on my list would be definitely mural related also. In a more kind of logistics focused tool, which are the drop mats for mural site projects when you're painting. So I know Zebra has a product like it. Sherwin-Williams has a product, and it's basically if you think of a drop cloth, if you're painting your room or again a mural, these are obviously very efficient with covering the ground, but I'm very clumsy, and if you have a lot going on your job site, you can trip over them, they can get bunched up. So I really like the drop mats. They're almost like a yoga mat that kind of accordion fold up. And they're super easy to move around the job site. They look very professional. And yeah, they just make cleanup so much easier. And there's a little bit of cushion to them, which is nice if you are doing a mural that's like close to the ground and you're going to be kneeling a bit. So I would definitely invest in one or two more of those just to have on hand because especially if it's outside, they do get dirty. And I feel like they'd always be a helpful tool. So definitely drop mats for mural projects would be my next one.
I like that. I think for me, like the version of mine for that is I like those drop cloths, but I'm definitely a big fan of picnic blankets. And at the end of summer when they all go on clearance, oh
Yes,
yeah. Yeah.
that's
Waterproof.
smart.
But you're right. They're not going to look as professional. And some of them have like, I don't know, flamingos and palm trees or whatever. But I'm like, whatever. It's
Yeah.
gonna get
And
filled with clothes and with paint anyways.
yeah, and I think I mean certain jobs it matters more than others, right? Like if you're painting after a business is closed, like it doesn't necessarily matter what it looks like while you're painting as long as it cleaned up when the business opens again or if
But that
it's
mat would be perfect for photos, the one you're
right.
talking about. So
Very true. Yeah.
yeah, I gotta think about that angle too.
Hmm.
Um, I think not just for murals, just like all kinds of painting in general. I would say yes, like a lot of our guests, I would answer that yes, I would spend $100 on art supplies. Easy, like no questions asked. I'm always looking for like good sales for at least some of my go-to paints and brushes. Sometimes I'll kind of give myself a budget and be like, okay, I'm going to go into the art store, which is a dangerous place to go in person, but I'm willing to spend 20 bucks on something experimental. It could be a water soluble, color stick of some sort. It could be like an ink of some sort that I want to like play with or whatever. Um, but spending $100 at the art store in person or online is extremely easy. Sometimes it's a combination. It might be at the paint, like the actual paint store, instead of the art store, the mural, or I should say like home paint store, the DIY store. That's really easy too. Like just a few gallons and $100 is gone. But yeah, I always try to keep an eye out for sales, simply because certain colors, like let's say white, I'm going to use that in almost any project and almost any media that I'm going to do. So I'm like, it won't go to waste. Like, and it doesn't go bad. Like it's going to get used within the year. So if I see it on sale, I definitely go for that.
Yeah. I definitely agree. I mean, art supplies is kind of one of those like easy wins when it comes to extra money because it'll be the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
And kind of similarly, the next one that I was thinking about for my number three would be collecting the art of other artists as a way of sharing it forward. One, just because I know how meaningful it is for me as an artist when people buy my pieces or my products, that always feels so good. But especially just to fill my home and my studio with works from other artists, whether it's a vase or maybe a coffee mug. I've been really into making espresso at home recently. So I feel like having these like nice handmade coffee mugs always just like brightens my day even more. Or even spending in the sense of getting potentially like season tickets to a local theater. That's definitely been on my list of, okay, like one day when I make it big, that's like what I dream of having is like season theater tickets. Where we are from, DPAC is like a big one, but there's also, I mean, local theater productions. There's like the Justice Theater Project, or NC State has their own theater company. So you can really get even like two to three, even four tickets within a season for under $100. Where I feel like that would be a cool way not only to support other artists and performance artists, but also to replenish the inspiration of all these different shows throughout the year. And just like fun experiences that would be very memorable. So definitely collecting art of other artists or investing in experiences that support other artists would be my next one.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. I would say another one for me is I can be a little bit of a gearhead. So when it comes to documenting, with video or photos or whatever, I'd say $100 is probably not going to get you a good camera, let's be honest. But um, it can go towards accessories like tripods, maybe a new microphone, filters, a backpack, to keep all your stuff safe. Maybe even, some lenses, depending what kind of camera you use. Maybe you can find the lenses used. I definitely have before. I think for me, it's like part of the joy of the documenting is the process of documenting, even if it never ends up online and it just stays on my phone or whatnot, or on my computer. I'm still going to use that later on, especially if, and we have episodes on this, like, if the inner critic shows up or whatever. I find it like always useful to be able to look back at previous work. And if I have documented at least some of the process, I find it super helpful to review. But for me to even want to incorporate documenting or capturing scenes without being performative while doing my own art, not for online, I have to at least enjoy the process of it. If it's a pain to set up the camera, to set up the tripod and whatnot, I'm way less likely to not do it and just do the art and that's it. And then later on be like, okay, I have a before photo and I have after, and I have no video and nothing in between, right? As opposed to like, oh, this camera will let me do this angle, and this one has like tracking. So as I move around, it follows me around, or the drone or whatever. So I'm like, I definitely would say, I mean, I'm calling it like documenting video and photo, but it's actually just like technology. Like we're back to technology with me. I can't help it.
The newest gadgets, the newest toys.
Always the gadgets.
I love
I
it. And
know it's fun.
I feel like as your friend too, and as listeners of the podcast, that's where we all benefit because if I'm like, is this camera worth it? Is this tripod worth it? I'm not sure. I was like, I already know Adriana's gone down the rabbit hole of researching, and you'll tell me all the reasons. You're like, no, this is the best for XYZ reason. So maybe a flaw, but I just blindly trust your technology suggestions at this point. I'm like, she's done more research than I'm ever gonna do about this niche, and I don't even know half the words that they're using to describe the product, so I trust you. I
I'm
love
like,
it. So,
I'll let you do your research, but I can help you like
right.
narrow it down for
Here's
sure.
the top three and the
Yeah,
pros and
yeah. I'll
cons of
help you
each
narrow it
one.
down and be like, you don't need that. That's way too much money. Or
Yeah.
wait for, I don't know, Cyber Monday or something.
Yeah, because I think that's a big part of with technology too, is recognizing like which things are going to go on sale, which things aren't,
And when.
and when. Yes. Well, very different from technology. I think my number four is kind of related to my number three in terms of like supporting other artists, but more relationship focused. I forget who said it, but one of our guests mentioned this as what they would do for their $100 would be to use it to buy lunch or coffee intentionally with other artists or art industry professionals, maybe a curator, maybe a gallery owner. And I love that idea of spending the money to invest back into relationships because truly in the arts industry, but also just community in general, those one-on-one connections really are so valuable and rewarding with kind of guiding your journey as a creative. So, one thing I would want to do, and honestly is really on my radar for 2026 before I leave art space and potentially might not have a public facing studio, is to schedule some of those intentional studio visits. Again, whether with fellow artists or gallery owners, just to show them, hey, here's the work I've been working on. Here's pieces from my last series. This is where I see the work going. And really investing in that with coffee or lunch that we order in. Because I feel like that'd be really fun. And it would really help kind of keep a timeline to creating a consistent body of work again of, okay, come March, I'm going to be scheduling 3 studio visits. So let's kind of put the fire of cranking out a series or intentionally being in the studio consistently. So we shall see, to be determined.
No pressure, but also
Pressure.
but also deadlines.
It's good to put pressure on yourself sometimes when like you
Yeah.
feel, okay, I don't have a milestone coming up, I don't have a deadline. So sometimes it is helpful to put deadlines on yourself with to create a little urgency, but also understanding and grace of it's just on yourself, so you can move it if you really want to.
But try not to. Try
But
not
try
to.
not.
No, I like that. I like that idea too. And yeah, we've had some guests on the podcast that have talked about like, spending some of the money on food. Like they'll say like a really good dinner makes for like good painting session type situation. Which I really love that. Or they'll say they'll take their loved ones or whatever, and that's like,
Yeah.
fills their tank, to continue going in their art business. So that's super cool. Um, I'd say one of mine that's easy for me to spend $100 on is, I subscribe to, the idea of being a lifelong learner for sure. I rescue books all the time. At least that's what I'd like to say. Obviously, in my household, there's a different opinion, and they call it hoarding. It's not true. Okay, it's not true. But no, seriously. Some years ago, I pledged to, almost all of my books are used. I purposely buy them used. So I'm always like adding not just to the art book collection, but also there's like a few others that are like inspirational or more business oriented, not necessarily just about art and art movements, but I love those too. Um, I don't know. I learned a lot. I mean, the other day I was like reviewing an artist that's like been gone for several decades, and there were a lot of parallels in what he was talking about, his abstract work and my abstract work, except obviously we've never met. And I'm like, what is happening? Anyway, so I find that like $100 is just like in books, analog books for me, anyways. It's like a passport into like, other knowledge bases without having AI redact everything on your Google search. So there's that. Um, but this can also apply to towards online courses, and I've done that before. Of the shorter variety, you can definitely find plenty that are under 100. Or you could use, or I've done this before, I've used that 100 to do like Skillshare, or the other one I like is Domestika. And most of these are like under 100 for the whole year, or you could do it for a few months, depending what your life cycle is at. Um, and see if they're a good fit and you have a time that you're not as busy and you can get the mileage out of it. But I would say for, yeah, definitely for books and other courses for sure.
Yeah. Oh, I love that idea. I feel like my last one is kind of similar to that as an investment in kind of continued progression or investment in your future self in a way. And this one may be one that people don't really expect an artist to say, but is probably my top suggestion, which would be either a gym membership or workout movement classes of some kind. I have found time and time again that the statement serves to be true that the healthier I am, the more creative I am. Oftentimes, especially if I'm either on a run or lifting at the gym, that's where my mind is the most clear. And honestly, I will have concepts, or if I'm working through something visually in the studio, that's where my like aha moments will happen. And so I stop mid workout to like pull out my notes app or like sketch something on my phone, because that's where my mind is the most clear and present. And also from mural standpoint, it is a very physical job and studio practices if you're standing on your feet for 3, 4 hours at a time painting, especially on a large scale, that is very physically demanding. And so you really do need muscles for that and endurance and leg strength so you don't get fatigued. So gym membership for sure, because nothing is worse than feeling like you have to hold back creatively because of like my arms being sore or my back hurting because I've been on a mural wall for all day, which inevitably that's going to happen too. But try to keep the odds in your favor by building those mural muscles, as I call them.
Yeah, reducing injury for sure. And that applies
Yeah.
to, I mean, everything. Like it could be clay, it could be
Oh,
painting,
yeah. Clay, I'm
murals,
sure is insane.
it could even be digital design on a tablet if you don't have good posture for sure. Which I'm actually, that leads me to mine, which is a little bit different. Yours is more indoors, mine's more outdoors in this case. But I would say for me, it's for parks and trails. I think worthy to spend $100 on, getting the necessary bits of gear that you would need, in my case, to go to a hiking trail. Maybe just maybe at some point we'll go back to tent camping. I'm just gonna say once URV, it's hard to go back because air conditioning and hot water. Hello. But and heat in the winter. But um no, I don't know. I've been getting more and more, doing a little bit more exploring and whatnot. And even if it's not going to an actual park, that's far away or in a big mountain or something, it's like, last couple weeks I went to the Arboretum a few times and it was great and it was like fulfilling. And I'm just walking around between all the trees and the plants and like sketching stuff down and taking video and taking reference photos for future paintings and stuff. And like that, I mean, it was free, but I would say like in this case, what I would invest, part of my $100 allowance, so to speak, would probably be on the shoes. If you're going to be walking around all the time, not just for painting and murals, but definitely if you're going to be hiking or, walking extended amount of times, your regular fashion style shoes are probably gonna, probably not gonna do you any good on your feet. But getting a good pair of shoes for sure, and or any other necessaries. But yeah, I think that would be my last one. Do you
Yeah,
have any
I
others,
love
Jackie,
that.
that you thought of?
No, I think really when it comes down to it, spending $100 on yourself, investing in your studio practice, or just improving your day-to-day quality of life is obviously a luxury. But I think through this episode, we really realized and reflected on those what can feel like arbitrary investments really do have a rippling impact on your daily happiness, but also your creative energy too. Trying to identify, okay, well, what are those frustrations that I'm feeling, or the Apple Pencil or the generic brand Apple Pencil that I get frustrated with on a daily basis, or the lower back pain that I clearly need to address. What are things that we can do in order to improve our day-to-day life that ultimately will allow us to show up better as creatives and artists is what we
Yeah.
talk about.
Yeah, and is that if you're listening to this and you're looking to, get a gift to somebody else, I would say what I would highly, 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 highly recommend is if you know of their art practice, I find it really cool when somebody goes like, "This is one of my favorite brushes, and I got you one too." I think that's the sweetest thing.
Mhm.
I would say when it comes to paint, however, if I were you, which I'm not, I'd play it safe and get a gift card. Um, I have had extended family members give me something like kid level watercolors, and I don't even paint with watercolors. And I was like, oh, thank you. And that's getting donated later. So if in doubt, if you know the artist well in your life, you're gifting this forward. That's one thing. But if you're not exactly sure, please get them a gift card. Blick, Jerry's Artorama, Cheap Joe's. I mean, there's plenty. Or if you have a local art store in your area, a lot of times they'll do gift certificates as well. And then that way, your beloved creative in your life can go to town and they can kind of select how they want to split the funds. But with that, we're going to leave you. Thank you so much for joining us on today's conversation, and we hope you enjoyed it.
As always, our blog will be linked in the show notes, where you will find episode notes and links to all of our other podcast episodes.
And if you want to stay connected with us in between episodes, share your feedback, or have a question you would like for us to answer on the podcast, you can reach us through social media. I'm at ameighart across all platforms. Sorry, I almost forgot.
And I'm at jsandersstudio on all platforms. And if you want to follow the podcast, we're at levelupartists on Instagram.
I definitely need to get some coffee. But yes, you can also visit levelupartists.com, and you can access templates, resources, and more to level up your creative career today.
Thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you in the next episode.